Hello and welcome to the reading part of this course. In this video, I'm going to give you a quick review of the scoring mechanism and show you where your reading scores are coming from and where you need to focus on. We're going to cover a strategy based on your current level, so a personalized strategy for you based on where you are and what your current score is. I'm going to show you two principles to level up as you practice for the reading section. So let's get straight into it. So this is a review of the scoring. We would have covered this in the earlier introductory part of this course. In case you missed it, watch that video. If not, this is a quick summary. So basically, your scores in the reading section comes from different questions. It comes from the typical reading questions, which are in asterisks over here, the multiple choice, read paragraph, fill in the blanks. It also comes from read aloud, summarize in text, and the other parts of the listening section. However, for our purposes, the key thing to note is that the ones highlighted in yellow make up majority of the scoring. So the read aloud and the fill in the blanks together make up more than 60% of your scores. From the reading section in particular, the fill in the blanks are super important. They contribute around 40% of your scores. And then read a paragraph 7% and multiple choice together combined contributes to 5% of your scores. So what you want to, how you want to use this is when you're practicing or doing repeated questions, you want to focus more on the high value questions. So you want to focus more on fill in the blanks and maybe a little bit of read paragraphs rather than spending too much time on the multiple choice single answer. That doesn't mean that you should completely neglect it, but while practicing, you spend more time on fill in the blanks. For read aloud, I cover that separately in the speaking section, so you can have a look at that video there. The next slide that I wanted to cover was the strategy based on your current level. So if your gap in the reading section is between 0 to 10 points, then you need to focus on doing targeted practice and doing repeated questions. So you don't even really need to do a lot of strategy and you don't really need to work on any foundation skills. If you're like somewhere at the 70 range and you need to get to 79, just doing targeted practice, I found that many students have been able to cover that 10-point range. Okay, and this is all based on working with students for the last few years and seeing how people have improved. So this really works. 10 to 20 points. So if you have a gap of around 10 to 20 points to cover to your target score, then you want to spend some time working on your foundation English, because just by doing repeated questions, you might not necessarily cover that much of a gap. Okay, so you also want to spend some time working on your foundation in English, and I show there's a separate section on foundational English, and you can have a look at the reading section of that module to kind of see what you need to do to work on that. But after spending 10 days, then you can focus on targeted practice and strategy, which is essentially going through the rest of these videos in this course in the reading section. If you're 20 points more, then you need to do a lot more work on your foundation skills. So you need to spend maybe 1 or 2 months and even ongoing after that working on your foundation skills and incorporate targeted practice in your preparation after that. Okay, next we're going to cover the two principles to level up as you practice, and this is a photo of a chocolate roulade. It's a really one of my favorite desserts in the world, and I love baking it as well. Now you might be wondering, Stephen, I'm here to like get a good score in the exam. What are you showing me about desserts? I'm going to show you the reason that I have this is because I want to illustrate an example with this. So this dessert, it's like a super tasty and delicious dessert, but it's also incredibly hard to make. And I attempted to make this a few times initially, and it turned out to be really bad, or I made a lot of mistakes around while preparing it. And this is like a type of dessert where if you make one small thing wrong, it's going to change the way it turns out. So there are probably like 10 to 20 types of mistakes that you can make in the preparation of this dish, and you really need to have every single thing done perfectly for it to turn out really well. And initially, as I started baking this dessert, I made all sorts of different mistakes. So the cream in this dessert, it needs to be whipped really well. So initially, when I whipped it, I didn't whip it as properly, so it wasn't like full, and the cream was melted, and then it wasn't as good. Another mistake is that you can bake it for too long. It's like even if you bake this for like 2 or 3 minutes more, it really doesn't taste the same for some reason. Another mistake that I made is while rolling up the roulade, you kind of roll it into a Swiss roll, and as you're rolling it, I've made mistakes. So the point being is that for me to end up making this delicious dessert, I had to go through lots of mistakes, and I had to learn from those mistakes. More importantly, I had to learn from those mistakes to come up to get to a point where now if I make this, I know that for sure 9 times out of 10 it's going to be a good dessert and people are going to love it. So for you, the dessert is the 90 score or the 79 score, or whatever your target is. That's your dessert, and you're going to have mistakes. You're going to make mistakes along your way as well as you're preparing for your exam and you're attempting practice questions. Now, only if you learn from those mistakes are you going to kind of get to your score. So it's the same thing as you're doing a lot of practice questions in the exam. You need to ask yourself questions when you get answers wrong. Okay, so you need to know why you got the answers wrong. That's principle number one. So ask yourself, why did I get this answer wrong? What can I do to ensure I do not make the same mistake? What can I learn from this? Because if you're not learning from your mistakes, you're going to make the same mistakes again, and then you're not going to get your desired score. And yeah, that's not what you want, right? So only once you really understand why I got this answer wrong will it help you to learn and improve. And once you start doing a lot of practice questions, you will notice patterns in your mistakes. So often you will find out there are certain you keep making the same mistakes for certain parts. So for example, in the fill in the blanks, I found that many people make a mistake because they're not reading the passage carefully enough and they do not understand it well. So once you've done a few practice questions, you reflect it and you see that, okay, this is something that I've made a mistake on repeatedly. So you want to be more mindful about reading it. So the next time you get a fill in the blank passage, you're going to be super careful to ensure that you read it carefully and you understand all different parts of the passage well. Another example could be you not understanding the meaning of the word. So when you have the options in the fill in the blanks, maybe you do not understand the vocabulary of a few words, and you notice if that's a repeated mistake, that's something you need to work on. You know that, okay, you need to improve on your vocabulary. Maybe you're spending too much time on a particular question and that's not allowing you to complete the exam in time. That's another problem that you could be facing. So basically you don't know what is causing you where you're losing marks on unless you kind of do that sort of reflection and identify patterns in your mistakes. All right, so these are things that you want to keep in mind, not just for the reading section but also for other parts of the exam, such as the listening section as well, as you practice. In the next video, I'm going to cover the timing and I'm going to show you how to ensure that you complete your reading section in time and how much time you need to allocate for each question. I'll see you in the next video.